we need machine learning and AI in our in developing more better models and accurate models, and at the same time we want to safeguard the privacy. To satisfy this both constraints, Google in 2016 has introduced a privacy preserving machine learning paradigm, which is called Federated Learning. So basically, it is a form of distributed ML that we have discussed, but the only so it has a server, let's say 3 clients, but the only constraint here is the clients are not supposed to share their personal data to the server. Okay, so that is the only difference between the distributed learning and the federated learning. Now if they don't share the data set, then what is the point in the federated learning and things like that? So how the models are trained, and how everything happens in federated learning. So let us try to look it in stepwise format. The first step was, there are different client devices or the users located at, let's say, different locations, and they want to come up with a common model. Let's say there are different hospitals, hospital A, B and C. In our case, we denote it by C1, C2 and C3. Each have some amount of, let's say, COVID-19 data, right? So hospital A, hospital B and hospital C has some amount of COVID-19 data, which they cannot share with the other hospitals, but they want to come up with a unified image classification model to classify the normal versus COVID-19 patient data, right? Now to do that, since they have agreed to a common task, which is image classification model, there is a centralized server here which first tries to initialize such model. Sorry. Let's say we take VGG16 model, which we discussed in the previous part. So it has initialized a VGG16 model. That is the first step. Then second step, it shares the model. It shares the model. That's why I'm emphasizing on the sharing part. It's only sharing the model. There is no data shared. It shares that initialized model to all the connected clients or hospitals in this case. Now the hospitals uses that model to train on the respective local private data sets that they have. For example, that the COVID-19 patient data set, they will train that model, which is a 16 model, train on COVID-19 data set, right? So this process is repeated on each client device. Now each client share the model update, only the model update, back to the server. When I say model update, it's the trained model weights. Again, we are only sharing the model weights. The data remains entirely to the client devices. Now in the fifth process and the fifth step, the server aggregates all the model updates, all the model weights received from different clients. So client A sends, let's say, VGG 16 underscore C1. Now VGG 16 underscore C2 and VGG 16 underscore C3. We have three models now with the server. It tries to, the basic way of aggregating is averaging. So it tries to average, basically sum it and divide by 3, and it comes up with a VGG 16 underscore S, maybe updated model. Now in the sixth step, the server using this updated model performs testing on some global test data which it has. Basically, this global test data can come from public sources, or which is a representation of data sets available at the clients. So when I say public sources, publicly available, maybe COVID-19 data which are shareable, which does not contain any private information. Why we are doing global testing here on global test data? To have some intuition on how well the model is training, the initialized model, right? So if it is not, I mean, if the accuracy is not good enough, then it in the seventh step, next step again, it will share the current stage of VGG 16 underscore server updated model back to all the clients C1, C2, C3. Again, once it has done this, then the third process, from third again it repeats, the process repeats. So this process continues until the global model reaches convergence and we reach a good global test accuracy. So in this way, we are trying to train a machine learning model, and along with we are trying to preserve the privacy. Here in any case, there are no point of sharing the private data, which entirely remains at the client side, right? So that is how federated learning framework helps in preserving the data privacy along with training models in a distributed fashion. So finally, we'll end up with one VG16 model, which is a unified model, which can be shared with the three clients, and all the three clients can be benefited. So in this part 2, we have discussed the input data part of the machine learning model, which we have started, and what are the challenges involved in the data preparation, pre-processing, annotations, storage and sharing. And within storage we have different different types of machine learning. And then when sharing comes, what is the challenge, which is a privacy challenge. And now preserving privacy along with trying to train better models, how can we do that using any approach? That's where privacy preserving machine learning paradigm comes, which is also called federated learning. And what are the steps involved in federated learning is what we discussed so far. So in the so I'll like to stop here the second part. In the third part, we will discuss the challenges or the involved in the federated learning process, all the 6 steps, what all the challenges involved, whether it is robust, and what kind of, how many client devices are optimal to be conducted, and all the client devices, does they have similar computational resources or not, what happens if they have multiple computational resources. And when I said each client has some amount of COVID-19 data. Thus that again lead to a challenge of, this in the data collection process, that unavailability of data. What if some clients have imbalanced data, low quality quantity data, all that affects during the aggregation stage at the server side. So how to overcome such challenges, and what kind of aggregations are better? I just said we can do only, I mean, to on a starting point we can do averaging, but is averaging always good? What kind of different aggregation methods possible? And does the client has to choose models from each client, so does the server has to choose models for each client for aggregation, or can it can apply some client selection techniques, and so on? So there are a lot of challenges to making this more federated learning process a robust one. Currently the research is going on to making the federated learning more robust, because it is one of the savior that helps us to, while preserving the privacy, training a better and better models on the amount of data, rich data that is available. So we are now trying to make the one paradigm that we have robust, so that it the model that can comes, that model that develops from it is very stable and generalizable and transferable, and things like that. So I'll stop this, and feel free to comment your queries or doubts you have. I'll try to answer all of them, and I'll see you in the next part of the lecture series. Thank you.